Welcome to Hockey Nights in Vegas, episode 89. My name is Eddie Rivkin. I'm joined, as always, by multiple misdemeanor offender Chris Chapman of Fox Sports Las Vegas and the Vegas Golden Knights pre- and post-game show. This episode, like all others, is brought to you by the Las Vegas Advisor at www.lasvegasadvisor.com, by my very good friend, Dr. John Pierce, at www.agelessforever.net, and by Joe Riccio, the man who has kept this criminal out of jail, at Marathon Law Group, www.marathonlawgroup.com. Chapman, this is episode 89. It's going to be an ode to the legendary former Vegas Golden Knight, Alex Tuch. He wasn't exactly a legend, though he played pretty well while he was here. He was more a legend for being a bachelor and hanging out in downtown Summerlin and swooning the Real Housewives of Summerlin. And there are stories, but perhaps we shouldn't say them because he is he's in Buffalo now enjoying the winter.
I think he's married. I think he's married now.
Oh, then we definitely shouldn't share stories that I know for sure from the players' locker back in the day. Okay, before we start the episode, I want to talk about Mason Geertson. Vegas Golden Knights fans, maybe not a name you're too terribly familiar with. Had a little bit of a cup of coffee, but that's not where we were talking about him. This is Hockey Fights Cancer Month in the NHL. Mason Geertson is currently on the roster for the Henderson Silver Knights, and he came out with a very moving message, I think it was about a week ago, where he shared with the world that he was diagnosed with cancer, and he went through cancer treatments, and he is in remission, and he's doing well. But just the strength, to go through it privately. Obviously, the team knew about it, and he made the decision not to go public with it, to fight his battle in private. I'm sure he had fantastic support, obviously, within the organization and his family. But what an honorable guy to fight that battle and win that battle and handle it in such a dignified way. You know, and it's apropos to tip our caps to Mason Geertson. I hope he gets another cup of coffee in the show. I hope he stays healthy and he has a long hockey career wherever the puck may take him. But congratulations, Mason. We're all happy for you, and much continued good health.
Yeah, it's when I saw the post last week, I was like, wow, like we had no idea that he had gone
None.
through this. And there's that old adage that cancer touches everybody, and I lost my father to cancer 9 years ago in September. So I know how fucking shitty it is. And I know what it did to him, and I know what the chemo did to him. So I can only imagine how difficult it is to play professional hockey while you're going through the treatment and fighting off this horrific sickness that affects so many people. In his case, certainly we're all happy that he was able to beat it, and as in the case of Shea Theodore, and it sounds like Dakota Joshua of the Vancouver Canucks is doing a whole lot better. But Eddie, this touches so many people in so many different walks of life. It doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter what you do professionally, where your background is from, what city or what country you were born in. It affects a lot of people. And, I see the statistics every year, and I'm so glad that the NHL and the NFL and other leagues around the world and country, they do their part to help raise awareness and money for cancer. And, like I said, we're happy for Mason that he's been able to overcome this really difficult obstacle that was placed before him. And as you mentioned, I mean, I couldn't have said it any better with the dignity and grace that he was able to go through it with.
Next happy story. How about that Brett Howden fella?
Good for him.
He keeps filling the net, and he got paid. He got 5 years. He got $2.5 million. He's only committed till age 31. This is absolutely his breakout season. We talked a bit about him in the last episode, how he trained with Keegan Colasar in the offseason, and how both of them, whatever the magic water of Manitoba is. It's
They need to
certainly
bottle it.
somebody needs to bottle it, and they need to make sure that it's in the dressing room. But you know what? He's a humble, quiet, soft-spoken young man, and really good on him. And good on him. 2 episodes in a row, we can talk about the Golden Knights signing a very important piece where the player gets paid, but also, I guess you would probably say a pretty team-friendly deal too, right?
Yeah, I mean, 5 years, $2.5 million. It's my opinion that Brett probably left money on the table because I think he's probably going to approach 20 goals. And I mean, that's a good number. How much I don't know, but I listened to him with Ashley Weiss on Friday. His interview after it came out that he had signed the extension, and first of all, he said all of his teammates were ecstatic that he was able to re-sign. He's a very well liked guy on the team and in the locker room. But what really caught my attention was with Brett, what he said about how important Las Vegas is to him and his family. He mentioned a lot of the significant events in his life that have happened here, both professionally and in his personal life. So I think for a lot of people, Brett Howden was a guy who in year one was watching the Golden Knights play the Winnipeg Jets in the Western Conference Final as a fan. Now he's a Stanley Cup champion with this organization. He's a guy who, it took him a while to get here. He had that stop in New York. He was a high draft pick, and he certainly is playing very well right now. But he's a guy you root for. He's a really nice guy, and as you mentioned, humble, quiet, but he's very well liked. And he's a guy who now is producing. And what really strikes me about him is it's about the mentality of him and his game and how he transformed himself into a shoot first guy. It makes a big difference in this league and in the world of hockey when you have a nose for putting the puck in the net. And Brett has found that he puts himself in good positions to be able to put himself in position to score. And so he's rewarded. And I think you and I really like him. I think a lot of the people in the media like him. In fact, I don't think I've ever come across anyone who doesn't like Brett Howden. So I think we're all happy for him. I'm definitely glad that it kind of came out of nowhere again. Like you don't expect these things, and all of a sudden you wake up and read the report. Brett Howden signs an extension with the Golden Knights. I love how the organization does things in the the cloak of darkness. Under the in a secret way. These things never leak out. No one ever had any idea that the organization was chatting with Brett Howden about an extension. I just love it. I love the way that this team does business. And
That's culture, but
yeah,
it's also respect, right? If you think about it, the players want to play here,
yeah,
right? Obviously, it starts at the top with Mr. Foley, and win is the only option. But the way that they manage their business, and yes, sometimes they make decisions that aren't the prettiest and nicest and fan friendliest. But you know what? They make decisions to win, and they do it in a very discreet way, right? And I think that's part of the reason that a lot of people in the organization were probably chapped about what Jonathan Marchessault said, right? You kind of this club, this organization takes care of business in-house. And, you know, listen, if Kelly McCrimmon's not in the running for GM of the year every single year, it's a crime.
yeah. Get
Because
rid
the
of the
guy,
award.
yeah, I mean, the guy lives with the top of his head against the salary cap beam every single second of every single day. Yet he continues to sign key pieces. He continues to grow the organization. He continues to find him and George and the scouting staff continue to find players who come through the system. They get a shot, a cup of coffee with the big club, and they produce. We had a first NHL goal for Cole Swint. We had another first NHL goal for a really hardworking kid a game or two ago. And just watching Jack Eichel go fish the puck out, right?
Yeah.
That's culture. That's locker room. That's what winners really are, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
I think that sums it up. This organization, and Kelly will credit the agent of specific players by basically keeping things in house. A lot of times there's leaks. People go looking for leaks. People like to be the guy who leaks information. There's none of that with this team. And generally the team deals with agents who are on the up and up and aren't willing to talk to the media. I like that because, listen, you and I are able to differentiate between being a fan and doing this. Fans want all the information, whereas you and I, we don't care about the information. We just want them to make good decisions, and we want them to do things the right way. We want them to win because ultimately that's all that matters. I understand there's going to be hurt feelings along the way, whether it's from specific players or from the fans. But what this team has done is they don't tolerate losing. And if you're a loser player with a loser mentality, they get rid of you. I'm not going to name names, but, certainly this team wants guys who win, guys who have a desire to win, guys who are willing to work their ass off to win. And if you can't cut it here, they have zero issue getting rid of you. And that, to me, is the difference as to why the Golden Knights are hugely successful. And we see the Seattle Kraken, and it's not a diss on them. Everyone does things their own way, but it's light years in between these two organizations that came into the league just a few years apart. I'm not saying Seattle is a losing organization. That's not what I'm saying at all. But what I'm saying is the Golden Knights don't tolerate that. They're here to win. That's all they care about. And they do whatever they have to do to win. And it's evident by the fact that they have a Stanley Cup. And there's a lot of teams around the league that, quite frankly, haven't won one in a very, very long time or have never won one.
Hello, Toronto.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking Toronto. I'm thinking Utah. Now, get culture change in Utah. It's going to take a little bit of time. They've got some good players. We'll see them Saturday night. But there's teams, and listen, winning is hard. And it becomes even harder when you do win because everyone thinks they want to be the team that teams get excited to beat. It's a completely different animal when you are that team that teams get excited about beating. But the Golden Knights, they embrace being the bad guy. They embrace being the team that everyone wants to beat. And there's a reason why they've made the playoffs in 6 or 7 years and why they've had deep runs in multiple years and why they've won a Stanley Cup and why they've been to 2 finals. It's a different mentality, Eddie.
Before we move on to the meat and potatoes of the Alex Tuck Summerlin wives. Oh, no, we're not going to tell those stories. Before we move on to the meat of episode 89, let's get a quick word in from Dr. John Pierce at Ageless Forever. I'm here with my good friend, Dr. Pierce. We're going to talk about cool sculpting. Back in the old days, it was liposuction. But then if you see the after pictures, they're entirely bruised up. People look like just death, and the recovery is brutal. Nowadays, there's this thing called cool sculpting.
Cool sculpting, really cool. It's non-invasive. Medical term is cryolipolysis. Basically what happens is fat cells freeze at a higher temperature than the skin cells or other cells in the body. We can freeze the fat cells and not damage any other tissue around that. Those cells will die. They go what's called apoptosis, or programmed cell death. They basically disintegrate. The body sends in white blood cells that gobbles up the remnants and it deposits them in the colon, and down the drain it goes. Depending on the amount or the area that you're looking to do, it may require 2 or 3, maybe even 4 treatments. It's really, really inexpensive, very, very effective. So if you've got problem areas that diet and exercise aren't taken care of, you got that little pooch or you got some love handles that you want to address, cool sculpting is the way to go. Not a weight loss thing. So, you got problem areas that are bothersome to you, we can target those and get rid of the fat in that area.
This is non-invasive. You come in, you lay in a comfortable chair, the gals take care of you. If you need a little touch-up, you don't have to be vain, so I'm considering it. If you want to consider it, send a message to the gals, www.agelessforever.net. Make an appointment. The first consultation is free. They'll walk you through the entire process, www.agelessforever.net. Send a message, take advantage of the free consultation. Wouldn't be bad to look better naked, would it? Well, in episode 88, we were prognosticating about the road trip. And we'll get to those prognostications and how incredibly accurate we are a little bit later. But the injury bug is here again. Alex Petrangelo's missed some games. Ben Hutton is on LTIR. Mark Stone is allegedly skating. Victor Olofsson is in Henderson.
Although he has yet to skate with or play in a game for Henderson on his conditioning stint.
William Karlsson missed last night's game, but for joyous reasons. They call it personal reasons, but his beautiful wife is expecting their second child. In fact, that may have happened since the last update we get, but I expect that if we don't see Will in Colorado tomorrow, then we'll certainly see him when Winnipeg comes to town Friday night for, I guess we'll probably call that must see TV. But the injury bug does not seem to be affecting them as dramatically, I guess, as we probably could have imagined. They're running a little bit thin on D right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, a solid Toronto game. We kind of didn't think they were going to win that. They did their job in Ottawa. They lit up Montreal like a Christmas tree and got the W. And then there's last night's game. I don't know if you watched it from puck drop to siren, but that was one of those head scratching. The Vegas Golden Knights clearly missed their alarm, right? They go down 2-0 in the first period where they basically slept through it. They go down 3-0 in the first 50 or 60 seconds of the second. And then I don't know which coach on the bench has like the shock collar or the alarm buzzer or the vibrating bench thing. But all of a sudden they wake up and they outshoot them like 16-5, and we're in a hockey game.
Yeah.
And it becomes a 1-goal game. Then they give up a goal and we're like, oh shit.
Yeah, here it comes.
Here it comes. I've already had the guide on DirecTV looking for other things to watch. I've already pretty well, committed this one to the shitter. And lo and behold, the testicular fortitude of the Golden Knights comes through, and they won a game that was just, I don't know. To me, it was just really confusing. They totally owned the second period. They totally got outplayed in the third. But hey, it's 2 points. It's 6 points out of 8 in the first 4 games of the longest road trip of the season for the Golden Knights. They're headed back west, albeit with a stop in Colorado tomorrow night. But all things being considered, Chris, with the injury bug, with Mr. Karlsson out for a game, maybe 2, things are okay. They kind of righted the ship a little bit on the road trip.
Yeah, well, let's give credit where it's due. I mean, it starts with their best player, Jack Eichel. He got things going last night. He's had a couple goals and quite a few assists on the road trip. But, I think the Toronto game, you and I kind of expected them to lose that game. I think I said they would lose that and the Colorado game, and they would win the 3 in the middle. But look, the Toronto game was a bit of it was a weird game because they played really well in that game, but what is his name? Joseph Wall.
Yeah.
He was really good, and Toronto blocked a shitload of shots. I think they blocked over 20 shots in that game. But the Golden Knights, they played a good game. So I know the score is not really indicative of how well they played, but ultimately at the end of the day, what matters is the score. And then you look at the Ottawa game, second night of a back-to-back. They got things going. They were just so much better than the Senators in that game. I wasn't sure if we were going to see like a repeat of what we saw here. Especially when I can't think of the guy's name who had the 2 goals here, and then he scored a goal in the Ottawa game for the Senators, and I'm thinking, oh no, here we go again. But it was one of those games where they were just dominant. And then the Montreal game, look, Montreal's awful, and the Golden Knights were able to exploit a lot of holes in that team. They that second period, 5 goals in the second period. Good night, Irene. That was it. There was no chance the Canadians were coming back. And then last night was weird because I think if you listen to John Tortorella after the game, he actually was pretty happy with the way that the Flyers played.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that
they played a good game.
the first period they owned, right?
Yeah,
The third period they owned, but they didn't get rewarded,
right.
right? I think if you're Torts, I think you're pretty happy. I mean, clearly the
Well,
team is nowhere near as talented as the Golden Knights,
well, I think there was
right?
about a 10-minute stretch there in the second period where Vegas really imposed their superiority on the
Yeah,
Philadelphia Flyers. But like, if you're Philly, you got a point, and sure, you're probably like, oh shit, we were up 3-0 and 4-2, and we got it to overtime. We had a chance to get 2 points. You don't give a shit if Vegas gets the 1 point. I know Vegas certainly doesn't care if the Flyers got a point in that game. It doesn't mean anything to them. But to come away with 2 points in that game, I think it showed resolve. It showed that Jack Eichel is on
he's
another
bona
level.
fide. That's it.
Like
He's a
he
bona fide superstar.
he's I think second in points in the league, one behind Marty Necas, and I think he's tied with Nathan McKinnon.
McKinnon, yeah.
I think the two of them have 35. I think Eichel has 34. But look, I'm going to make this statement, and I don't think you're going to push back too much on it. I'm not going to say Jack Eichel's going to win the Hart Trophy. I think that's there's a lot that goes into that. But if Jack Eichel continues to play the way he's playing, he's going to be in the discussion. And I will make the statement that if Jack Eichel finishes where we're projecting him to finish in points, somewhere in that 115 to 120 range, maybe more, and the Golden Knights finish ahead of the Edmonton Oilers in the standings, I don't care what Connor McDavid does. Like, unless he ends up with like 160 points, Jack Eichel is going to finish ahead of Connor McDavid in the voting for the Hart Trophy. There's some ifs in there, but at the rate he's playing, he's a candidate. He's absolutely a candidate. The Golden Knights are better than the Avalanche. Golden Knights, I don't know if Marty Necas is going to stay. Look, he's a really good fucking player, and we love watching him play. I don't know if he's got the
I don't know if it's sustainable. I don't know if that
right
shooting percentage is sustainable the
that
rest of the way
that
through the year.
and let's be honest. I mean, Carolina's a good team, but they don't generate buzz like the Golden Knights do, like Toronto does. And listen, Austin Matthews, he's probably out of the discussion already, and we're only in November. I may come back to eat that when he comes back and starts playing again. But listen, I mean, Eichel is having a season for the ages. He's going to smash the points record for this team. He's going over 100 points. Like I went way too low when we did our season predictions. I said he'd probably be somewhere around 90. Eddie, he's probably, if he stays healthy, there's no reason to think he's not going to end up with 125 points.
Yeah, I think that might be a little bit high, but 110 is certainly within reason.
I mean,
There's no
we're 22 games in. He's got 34 points.
yeah. There's no pushback for me. The only thing about the Hart, as is with all of the NHL awards, is there's only 3 nominees.
Right.
And listen, if you look at the scoring, you got McKinnon, you've got Necas, you've got Cale Makar, right? I don't know who the other 2 in the top 5 are, but it's not at all.
Kaprizov and Kucherov are so your top 5: McKinnon, Necas, Eichel, Kaprizov, and Nikita Kucherov. And then Mikko Rantanen is also up there for Colorado. Sam Reinhart, 16 goals, 15 assists. That's pretty damn impressive as well.
Okay.
But
Here's the point that I want to make. And I'll say to you, Chris, I don't think that you'll give any pushback on this. Of those 6 or 7 players that you just named, Jack Eichel is the best 200-foot player on that list, and there isn't a second. Maybe
no,
Kucherov.
no,
Right?
there's yeah.
What it's funny because we're gonna do a callback to when Bruce first got here. There's that story about Bruce and Jack having coffee out on
Cape Cod,
Martha's Vineyard.
Martha's Vineyard, yeah.
Right? And it feels like that story got pushed away because it's been a while, 2-3 years. But Jack Eichel he could compete for the Selke.
Yeah.
Easily. I mean, there was an instance in last night's game, and it seemed like sort of a nothing burger if you were just kind of watching the game. But there was a bad turnover by, I think it was Shea Theodore, and the Philadelphia Flyers had a 3-on-1, and Jack Eichel was the defender, and he broke up the 3-on-1.
Yeah.
You have to look; it's about 6 or 7 minutes into the third period. And then there was another one in the overtime where two guys got trapped deep. Philadelphia comes the other way. Jack Eichel is the defender. I will guarantee you, if you asked any fan of the Buffalo Sabres if they have ever seen Jack Eichel be the sole defender on a 3-on-1, the answer is no.
No.
That cup of coffee that they had on the vineyard or wherever the hell it was, Bruce told Jack, I don't know. I'm going to tell you what I think. Bruce told Jack he can be a better scoring Patrice Bergeron. And that's what his expectation of him was going to be.
Well,
and
if anyone would know.
Right. And it's hard not to compare, and it's hard not to say Jack Eichel is exactly that. He is an elite scorer if he chooses to score. And the goal that he gave to Barbashev, the tap-in goal, is
Against
the perfect
Montreal.
is the absolute perfect example. He could have finished that in 0 seconds flat. And they asked Barbashev after the game, were you expecting that pass to come back? He goes, oh, hell no. I'm just glad I have my stick on the ice.
Yeah.
He's unselfish, but he's a legitimate sniper. Just watch him shoot the puck, right?
Well,
look at the goal last night or tonight, whenever the hell that game was. The snapshot, right, from the top of the circle was just a piss missile.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't know. We slurp him every episode. He deserves to be slurped every episode.
Well, Eddie, you
I
watch
hope
him.
I hope the league will acknowledge it. They don't seem to like the Golden Knights for individual awards so far. But I hope that he plays his way where he forces his way into that conversation.
Well, what he is he's a complete hockey player.
Yeah.
Like maybe the most complete hockey player in, of the elite players, because as you mentioned, of his defensive capabilities, his 200-foot game, his speed, everything that he does, he continues to show that he's an elite player. And I don't know if there was ever doubt that he was an elite player. I guess maybe the question was, would it ever all come together for Jack? And clearly he's proven time and time again that it has. The thing with the Selke is, I think it's an award where there's a definite East Coast bias, because if there wasn't, Anze Kopitar would probably have about 5 of them. But I think he's turning heads. And when you're doing that on the East Coast against a Tortorella coach team, you're turning heads. And you're certainly a guy who there's going to be a lot of hype because he's got a ton of points. He's going to have a ton of points. And what you're going to look back at is, what did these guys in Toronto, these guys in Montreal, what did he do in those games? And I think that will determine, because as I said, I think there's a definite East Coast bias with the Selke. Guys in Toronto aren't watching the Golden Knights against the Utah Hockey Club on a Saturday night.
They're 11 o'clock at night.
Right. Or the Golden Knights against, I don't know, name the Anaheim Ducks on a Tuesday in December. Like, that's just not happening. They're tuning in for games where the Golden Knights are playing Edmonton, where they're playing Toronto, where they're playing the Rangers. What are those guys doing in those games? But as far as him being in the conversation for Selke and Hart, there's no pushback. Like, we're a quarter of the way into the season. I think we could this is when you start to look at what guys, this is who they are. Jack Eichel right now, I'm not going to make the statement that he's the best player in the NHL, but Eddie, he's really damn close right now.
He's top 5. He's top 5.
The level he's playing at, you could make the case that he's the best player in the NHL right now.
You know what the strange thing about this is we've done a couple of these episodes, And we haven't really talked about the Golden Knights missing Mark Stone.
No, that's because of Jack Eichel.
And well, that's what I mean. The fact that they're leading the division, they're second in the conference, all of that is being done without Mark Stone.
Yeah,
and
that's because of the play of Jack Eichel. Like you're never gonna not miss Mark Stone.
Of course, no. I'm not saying.
No,
that
I know
all.
that's not.
But
I don't want
they,
people to get that impression.
No. But if they were middling right now, we would have to talk more about the effect that Mark Stone has not being in the lineup.
Well, he's missed what, 8 games, something like that. I mean,
almost a quarter of the season so far.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're and supposedly skating, but we don't have a time frame on his return.
Right.
But I mean, it's what Jack Eichel is doing. I think that is so impressive, Eddie, because the team clearly missed Mark Stone those first few nights he wasn't there. The Carolina game, they got punched in the mouth and they had 0 response. But they've won what, 5 of 6 on the or 5 of 7 on the road,
and 3 in a row.
Yeah, 3 in a row. I mean, yeah, they lost that game at Seattle, but it started with the road game in Edmonton. They were 2-0 on the dad's trip, beating Utah and Anaheim, and then they've won
11-0-1, by the way, on the
dad's trip, and then they've won 3 out of 4 on this East Coast road trip. And look, I mean, Colorado is going to be angry because they got the shit kicked out of them last night by Tampa. They got the shit kicked out of them by Vegas the last time they played. So they're going to be angry and surly when the Golden Knights come in.
So let's stop for a second. Let's get a word in from the great attorney Joe Riccio at Marathon Law, the man who has kept my partner in crime, criminal extraordinaire Christopher Chapman, out of the Clark County Detention Center and off the criminal docket. So Joe Riccio from Marathon Law Group will be back in just a second.
I'm here with Joe Riccio from Marathon Law Group. And Joe, believe it or not, when I was on my way here today to come talk to you and do these, I saw an accident, Rancho 95. It got me thinking, what should someone do if they are in an accident?
Well, definitely a scary situation here in Las Vegas. We have a lot of people driving around that are, let's say, a little less than safe. One of the first things you definitely want to do is get to a safe location right after an accident. Make sure you are safe. Do not be getting out of your car in the middle of an intersection when cars are flying by. Number 2, you should be calling 911. Make sure that you get the police on the scene for purposes of getting a report established. Number 3, you want to take as many photos of the scene, Chris, as possible. You want to make sure that you're getting as much information from the other side as you possibly can. Number 4, you want to immediately seek medical treatment if you're hurt. A lot of people, they come out of an accident and they say, believe it or not, I'm fine. A lot of times you don't know until weeks later because of the adrenaline. So it's very important that you seek the proper help. And of course, last, call Marathon Law Group.
So let's look forward, chap. Tomorrow night is Colorado on the way home. And like you said, as the perfect tease for this, they got their ass handed to them. They gave up a touchdown and a 2-point conversion in Tampa last night to the Lightning. So they've got to fly from Florida to Denver. The Golden Knights are flying from Philadelphia to Denver. So there's no travel bias involved in this game. I don't know that this is the circle game, the one we circle, because we're going to talk about Friday night's game, which is the absolute must-see TV game if you're a Western Conference NHL fan. But Colorado is the most up and down, inconsistent, superstar-laden, invisible goaltending team in the NHL. So I'll take a nice 6-4 win. Something like I'm looking for a very entertaining, a heated game, but with not fantastic goaltending. That's what I think.
Well, you're going to get Adin Hill in the game tomorrow, but I think when you look at Colorado as a whole, you kind of alluded to it. Their goaltending has been
atrocious,
not very good. Alexander Georgiev has not been good. Justice Ananen, he came in mop-up duty in the opening game for Colorado, but he hasn't really been that good either. Both, but there, it's not my job to question other teams and the way they do things. But if this team continues to be very inconsistent, you almost wonder if Jared Bednar's job is going to be on the line at some point, because they're 12-10. They've gotten caved in multiple times. The goaltending has not been very good. And I know you're forever missing Gabe Landeskog.
Sure.
But there's enough talent on that team to where they should not be 12-10 at this point of the season.
They have the Norris and the MVP.
Yeah. Think about that.
And they have by far the Norris winner.
Yes. Kel McCarr is phenomenal.
Yes, he's generational.
Yes, I mean, look, there's the great thing is there's a lot of really good young defensemen. Quinn Hughes certainly in there as well. Adam Fox of the Rangers, but man, Cale Makar, when he is on another level, and it's always fun when you get to watch him play. This could be a high scoring game, but Eddie, there's something about this that I know Colorado got blown out last night.
Okay, so if the over under is 6, which way are you going?
Oh, I'm going over. I'm going way over 6.
I hope you weren't going to twist up a 2-1 or something like that.
No. But what my thinking is for the Golden Knights, this is the last game of a long road trip. For Colorado, they're going home after being on an East Coast road trip. And there's always something about that first game at home.
Agreed.
When you come from the East Coast to the West Coast, your body's adjusting.
It's an absolute known gambling bias. The first game back after a long trip east to west is always a bug. Yeah. Always.
And so for the Golden Knights, this is not that game. That game's Friday. But for Colorado, this is that game. And I don't know if the goal, it's based on the circumstances, it's going to be really tough for them to win that game. But I would not be the least bit surprised if they went into Denver last night and came away with 2 points. I mean,
tomorrow night.
What did I say tonight?
Last night.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where's my head? So it's certainly not.
Did we mention that? Did we mention that Joe Riccio does drug rehab stuff as well to help people out who can't remember what day it is and things like that?
Yeah.
Give him a call, Joe.
Yeah. Give him a call.
Give him a call.
So yeah, I think this is a game for the Golden Knights where Colorado is prime to be just absolutely taken apart. There's some trouble there with the Avalanche. I expected them to be better.
Everybody expected them to be better.
It's like they got that one cup run, and I feel like they were disappointing leading up to that cup run, and they've been disappointing since. It clearly was not a fluke that they won the cup. I mean, that was a great team, but I just can't explain why they cannot seem to, and it has to be more than just not having Gabe Landeskog.
My concern for the Golden Knights is, are they looking at Thanksgiving dinner?
Well, that's
right.
Or are they looking ahead to the home game against the Winnipeg?
Nah, I think it's closer. They've been away for 10, 12 days. They got 1 day off. It happens to be, American Thanksgiving. I worry that they might just, be taking that's a coaching thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No. I mean, 100%. They could get caved in tomorrow.
And we know that Bruce will. Well, we think that Bruce will have them primed. But my worry is, let's get home to the family. Let's have a beautiful Thanksgiving, and then we'll get back to work on Friday. Speaking of Friday, the best team in the NHL makes their debut at the Fortress. That would be the Winnipeg Jets.
Who also had a tough road trip to Florida.
Yeah, they got their ass kicked a couple of times back to back. So we got the Avs, then we have Thanksgiving on Thursday, and then we have a complicated or back to back at home with Winnipeg and Utah. You said, are you sure we're going to get Adin Hill tomorrow? Are you sure we might not get Samsonov and get Samsonov tomorrow and maybe get Adin Hill against the Jets?
Well,
Samsonov, are we going to get Hill?
We might get Hill back to back.
You think Hill back to back and then Samsonov Saturday against Utah?
Yeah, because Samsonov played last night. It's almost a case, and I don't know. I guess you really can't do it because of the fact that you need to have Aiden Hill there in case something goes wrong with Samsonov. But it's almost a case where you wish you could have sent Aiden Hill to Colorado a day early, let him adjust to the altitude and be ready to go. But I think we'll see him tomorrow night against Colorado, and I think we'll see him Friday against Winnipeg. Look,
And
that's a big game for him
yeah,
because you're going up against a guy who very likely will be the goalie for Team USA in the
and the Vezina.
the Four Nations face-off. So for Aiden Hill, like I know it's not goalie against goalie. By the way, the Ottawa game was pretty much goalie against goalie. I don't know if you saw any of the stuff between Samsonov and Linus Ullmark that transpired, but it was a little fun stuff away from in the world of Instagram. But look, I think for Aiden Hill, yeah, sure, you're not playing against the guy on the other side, but sometimes you want to outplay the guy on the other side. And this is a big game for him. They're not going to bench him against Winnipeg.
Before we go that, I just want to make one point. Samsonov was the first star of last night's game, and he gave up 4 goals
He was good.
because he could have given up 4. They could have, the way they played defense in the first and third periods. There was a wide open highway to the net. He stopped 3 breakaways. He stopped all 3. The times that you can say the goalie is the first star with 4 on 29 or 4 on 30, something like that. Last night, he didn't steal the game, but he certainly made it so they could win the game.
Yeah, and it was one
they
of those.
they didn't make it so that they could win the game without him. That's for sure.
Yeah,
So
it was
back
one
to
of those.
Friday.
Well, one of those games where you mentioned we need a goalie to steal a game. Yeah, he didn't steal it, but he certainly kept you in it.
Yeah. Yep. I agree 100%. So Friday is the 4th game, 25th game maybe of the
24th
season.
game. Yeah.
24th game. To them, they'll say just another game on the schedule. To us, well, let me go first. To me, that game is a flag planting game. That this is the opportunity, or I should say, somebody is going to plant a dominant flag Friday night. If Vegas comes home after the longest road trip of the year, comes back from the east through Colorado, and smacks the Winnipeg Jets, I don't want to say it's a coming out party because the league is firmly aware that the Golden Knights are legitimate. And we use that phrase statement game probably too often, but in this person's opinion, that is an absolute statement game in either direction. How important? How is it one of 82? Oh, we have a technical difficulty with Chapman again.
Oh, geez.
Oh, geez. We're going to put up that funny graphic. And there he is with a different.
I had to switch cameras. I don't know what the hell's going on here. I don't know why.
Okay. There's plenty of room to put the cartoon Chapman in there. But as I was asking, to you, how important is game 24 against Winnipeg?
Well, it's hugely important. I think it's more important for the Jets than it is for the Golden Knights, though.
Really?
Yes, because this is a team that, while they have some big wins, they've beaten Dallas, they've beaten the Rangers, they've absolutely crushed the Edmonton Oilers in that first game of the season. They split with Tampa. They split with Florida. They're coming off a loss to or a win against Minnesota last night. That's to me, that's a big win within the division. But this is a team that needs, I don't think they need it, but I think the narrative around them is that they can't get the job done against the elite teams. And while they have some good wins, this would be a statement win for them because Vegas is a team that you could potentially play in the Western Conference Final. It's a huge game for them. And I think it's a huge game for their psyche because it's the first time seeing the Golden Knights. They're on the road in Vegas the day after Thanksgiving. It's Black Friday. People are going to be fired up. They're probably going to be liquored up.
5:30 start, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, weird start time in that one. But For this team, I think it's a bigger game for Winnipeg than it is for Vegas, but I don't think that doesn't sell. That kind of sells short how big of a game it is for Vegas as well. It's a big game for both teams, but I think it's a bigger game for the Jets.
So let's parachute out. 24 games in. The next 14, I think it's 14 games. The next 14 games the Golden Knights play are against the Western Conference. American Thanksgiving is sort of the playoff barometer. This 14 games, I think, is going to determine pretty close to where things are going to shake out in the Western Conference. They've got Winnipeg on Friday night, and then again less than 2 weeks later in Winnipeg. They've got Edmonton on December 3rd here in town, but then they go to Edmonton less than 2 weeks later. They see the Stars for the first time. I mean, this is make hay while the sun shines. The Wild are coming in, and they're far out pacing expectations for everyone else.
Right.
I mean, yeah, they've got the Sharks and they've got the Ducks, but this is a brutal stretch of games for the next. It takes them, let's see, from Friday, November 29th. The next time they see an East Coast team is the Canadians on New Year's Eve.
Yeah. 3:00 start for that one. So
noon.
Noon. I'm sorry.
Noon.
Yeah. I'm looking at the East Coast time.
Yeah, noon.
And that's the way it should be on New Year's Eve. But this is, as you mentioned,
this is breakneck here for them.
Yeah, it starts tomorrow against the Avalanche, and as you mentioned, it's basically a month of a spoonful of conference opponents. To me, what I look at is there's a 3-game stretch in the middle of December at Winnipeg, at Edmonton, at Minnesota. I think that's a really big stretch, and hopefully you're healthy for that stretch because you've got 3 games
and a back-to-back.
Yeah, with Edmonton and Minnesota going back-to-back.
Yep.
So it's a big stretch for the team, but the good news is a lot of these games are at home. Edmonton at home, Winnipeg, Utah at home. Dallas is here, Vancouver, Seattle. Those are home games. Calgary, you'll see for the second time this season in Vegas, and the last time they'll come here this season. So the good news is it's a big stretch of games, but a lot of those big games are at home. And I think, what's crazy is you'll have already played 3 games against Edmonton, and it's not even Christmas. So it's important now to bank those points and put a little bit of a distance between yourselves and the Oilers. But I mean, this is a big stretch, and obviously we break it down, every week. We're not going to go through all 14 games today. We'll break it down 3 or 4 at a time. But I think it's huge, and you're at the point now where you're pretty confident that this team's going to be in the playoffs. I mean, barring something absolutely insane, but this is a good hockey team, and I think we need to acknowledge that they're a really good hockey team led by an elite player who is carrying this team. And sure, you're getting career years from guys like Brett Howden and Keegan Colasar, and we haven't even talked about the fact that Pavel Dorofeyev is the team leader in goals with 11, and his career high is 13. He's going to smash that because he no matter where he plays, he finds a way to score goals. And
okay, no more slurping. We've slurped enough. I know, but we've slurped enough players, and we're keeping our episode times down. So real quick, we've already picked on Colorado. So let's just do the twofer. I think the 3 points or 2 or 4.
Let's
0.
See. Are we including the Avalanche game?
Nope.
No. So just the 2 games
we've
at home.
We've already locked the Avalanche game in. You've got 5 points for the trip. I've got 6. So it's either going to be 6, 7, or 8.
Yeah. I think they win the 2 games at home. I think they beat Winnipeg in overtime. Okay. And I think they'll beat Colorado or Utah at home as well. They're better than Utah. They'll win that game.
I'm a little worried about the Utah game.
Yeah, it could be a letdown.
I think the gas is going to be on full blast for the Winnipeg game, and to just have that immediate turnaround. I'll ultimately There's such a superior team up and down the lineup. All right, we're going to agree. We're gonna continue to drink the Coach Cassidy Kool-Aid. I'll have grape. I don't know what flavor Kool-Aid you prefer, but we'll both go with 4 points to win the homestand. We like to end these silly episodes with prognostications. We
Sure.
did pretty good. We did pretty good this time,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Right. We were 5 and 6. 6 is the worst they can do. We're hoping for a little bit better tomorrow night. Episode 89, Alex Tuck in the Real Housewives of Summerlin. That's a fun title. That's in the books. Thanks as always to the sponsors. Las Vegas Advisor, www.lasvegasadvisor.com, agelessforever.net, Joe Riccio at Marathon Law. If you get in trouble, you better go see Joe. That's all I got to say, because if that man wearing a Jets shirt is still here every week for the podcast, he must have good representation. That's what I think. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to share it. We'll figure out how you can share it, right? If you share these things and you like these things, I'm secretly keeping track of all of you. The more people who like and share, you get entries into the ticket drawing. We're going to be talking with our sponsors about the next 1 or 2 ticket giveaways.
Yep.
Not sure if it'll happen in December or early next year, but we are giving away more tickets this year. And the only way that you can get in on the magical drawing is to like the podcast, share the podcast. You can like it on Instagram. We have to figure out how to do that Instagram thing because neither of us are young, but we should start putting up some post-game clips. Anyway, like, share, subscribe, tell your friends about it. We really do appreciate the loyalty and the viewership. Episode 89 is in the books. I'm going to downtown Summerlin to see the Real Housewives of Summerlin. See yous all next week.